It is a really dangerous point in this conflict. Another one, and it's exactly 7 months since this war started with the Hamas attack, and it's ongoing. And the question is what happened next. On the one hand, there are chances of a ceasefire, of releasing the hostages, and more humanitarian aid entering into Gaza. At the same time, the IDF entered Rafah, and this this operation that can be possibly extended with unforeseen circumstances. We just heard the idea that the civilian population can be protected is an illusion. There is, right now, roughly half of the Gazan population. There are 600,000 children. Many of them are malnourished. Many of them are sick. So even their movement is restricted as a result of that. So we are entering a very crucial point. We can just hope that the negotiations and, in this case, the mediators will push both sides to the finishing line.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that for a little moment. And to your point about the hostages, it would have seemed that a ceasefire of some form was absolutely critical at this point to secure their release. We know there's been a few proof of life videos, but there are grave concerns held for the remaining hostages. Could that moment be lost if Israel does not seriously come to the table with this and try and reach some ceasefire rather than this Rafah offensive?
The tragedy that quite a few moments have been already lost in the process, and there were other opportunities to reach an agreement, which it didn't seem a priority, not for the Israeli government, probably not for Hamas. And most probably some of the hostages paid with their life as a result of that. So every day that goes by, there are less chances of getting the hostages alive. There are 132 hostages. We don't know exactly how many of them are alive, what conditions are the other. So time is of the essence. And an operation in Rafah could only worsen it. The myth that the Israeli government trying to send that military pressure will bring home most of the hostages. What we have seen in the last 7 months has been exactly the opposite. So there must be a ceasefire now, and we see the demonstration, the protest in Israel by the families of the hostages, by their friends, and many of supporters say they understand they can't trust the government on this one and its priorities because time is running out.
Yeah. We just heard before about the looming humanitarian crisis. With Israel seizing this Rafah crossing, the only crossing really that was being effective, what does that mean for the control of humanitarian aid, and how can Israel be held to account to ensure that aid continues being distributed throughout Gaza, not just in this enclave?
Well, it means that Israel is in complete control of all the entrances into Gaza, and it can cut it off, including the one from the entrance from Egypt. And in a condition of war, if there is right now the military operation is relatively limited in Rafah. If it's extended, then probably one of the tools that Israel will use is to cut some of this humanitarian help, because it will also try to cut entrance of any goods to help Hamas in the war. And as always, the victims are the civilians in this conflict. And who can make Israel accountable, or anyone right now accountable? You see, those are the mediators and the other countries within the international community, the United States and other countries, the European Union, that can pass a resolution in the UN Security Council. But it's not only about words anymore, but it's about actions, and to see how this is any pressure bear fruit. One on the negotiation level, but the other is about ensuring that the war stops, and at the same time more humanitarian aid is entering into Gaza, because the situation is catastrophic.
Yeah. What do you think Israel is going to really achieve from this offensive? Do we even know how many Hamas operatives are around Rafah?
Well, according to some certain sources, there are around 4 battalions of Hamas. But this is not going to change the basic thing that Israel went into war with a promise, with a commitment to destroy Hamas, and this hasn't happened 7 months. The assumption also that some of the leaders of Hamas are hiding somewhere in the tunnels in Gaza, and they would like to catch them too. But then the question is the price and what is the political objective, or what is going to achieve in the long term in terms of relations with the Palestinians, with Gaza. Is this going to eliminate Hamas? Probably not. How is it going to affect Israel's relations with the rest of the world? Israel pushed itself into a corner, the same as Hamas to a large extent. Both of them want to declare victory, but there is no victory in this kind of situation. At a certain point, they need to cut their losses. Actually, what the mediators are trying to do is to help them to cut their losses and then to move into a different conversation. Temporary ceasefire, releasing some of the pressure when it comes to humanitarian help, release of hostages, release of Palestinian prisoners. So each of the sides will be able to declare at least some achievements and then look for the day after. But those are two stubborn sides at the same time. Politically, domestically, from their point of view, they are so committed to the war, they can't see the days beyond the war.
Yeah. And you're right, it's on both sides who have got political objectives. Of course, Benjamin Netanyahu's political survival is one of them. We've talked about that before. When will he draw a line, do you think, knowing that his demise probably is not far off?
He won't draw the line. Other people will draw the line for him. He won't go, and he won't go quietly. He will try to manipulate the Israeli political system to the very last. It's actually for few, he has a majority of 64 in the Knesset, it's for few good people, decent, with integrity within the Israeli political system to say enough is enough. He brought on Israel this disaster. It's not to exonerate Hamas, but he's the one that weakened Israel in his attack on the judiciary. He divided Israel. There was no defense of the southern border on October 7, and then he got Israel in unwinnable war. He needs to go. But then it's a democracy. As long as he has majority in the Knesset, he can continue. So we need to rely on some politician with integrity within his own party or within the coalition to change their mind and not to support him.
Yeah, a few good people, that's what it always takes. Yossi, great to have you on. Thank you so much.
Thank you.